Welcome to Conversations from the Barn at Everwood Farmstead. These are casual chats with visiting artists. Creaky barn, bugs, and all. Enjoy.
Hello, this is Chris from Conversations from the Barn. We're so happy to have you with us. I'm here with Bill Underwood. Say hello.
Hey, everybody.
Olivia Bratsky, who is our Arts Administration intern this summer.
Hi.
Hi. And our two artists who have been on retreat with us this week, John Noltner, a photographer.
Hello.
Hello. And Darren Garvey, a musician.
Hello.
So happy you got to be with us this week. And it seemed like it was a beautiful week to be on the farm.
It was amazing.
Is there ever not a beautiful week on this farm?
It does happen.
It happens.
It does happen.
We love
Not
it.
often.
Thanks for arranging the good stuff for
Indeed,
us.
yeah.
We made a few phone calls.
So, John, Chris comes out of the gate and calls you a photographer. Would you lead with photographer?
Oh, thank you for asking that. Some days I do.
Yeah.
I always called myself a photographer. I've come to call myself a storyteller now, and sometimes those stories happen visually, and sometimes those stories happen with words. My training actually was as a writer, made my career as a photographer, and now I do a little bit of both.
This is your second trip to Everwood. Now, you were here, I'm going to say like 7 years ago with your exhibit.
I think I would have said 8 or 9, and it was I brought one of my exhibits here, and we put it up in the barn when you had a theatrical production going on.
One of the top 5, I think we can agree on, top 5 all experiences at Everwood. We were fortunate to bring Theater La Ciudad's All Is Calm here for
top
a performance
5
in December.
Oh, yeah. And I was a part of it?
And you were a part of it. And
Nice.
for those who don't know, and if you don't know, you should check it out. All Is Calm is a beautiful theatrical piece created by Theater La Ciudad.
And it's All Is Calm, the Christmas Truce of 1914.
Fair. Nice work, Chris Everett.
You're welcome.
And it really takes a beautiful look at the truce of 1914. And as we were about to welcome the artist, we learned about your work.
And I don't even remember how.
I don't either.
No.
Would
I
it
don't
have
either.
been through Heidi and Wade, maybe?
No.
I don't know how we learned about you,
But we did.
but we did.
Yeah.
And we called you out of the blue and said, hey, we own a barn.
Can you set up your art
we're
in a
gonna do-
freezing cold barn?
And we're going to do a theatrical production in December. You want to join us?
And I said what I almost always say when a window of opportunity opens. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did.
What was really special about that evening, because it was about the Christmas truce at the beginning of the war, and it is a moment that militaries and governments have tried to just kind of pretend like it didn't happen, because what happens if the soldiers just stop fighting, right? And so it's French, English, German fighting in no man's land on Christmas Eve, 1914, and they do just that. They put their weapons down and they step out of no man's land and they bury each other's dead and sing Christmas carols and play football. And this barn was built in 1914.
Oh, wow.
And they wanted to do it because there's so many different Christmas carols of all the different languages. Do it in December, and we had never done a show in December. And Minnesota in December, it's an iffy proposition. But it was a beautiful night that night. It was like 28, 30, just right below freezing. Everybody came prepared. The first invitation went out to local veterans. And so we had all these veterans in full uniform on the front row. And it was a very moving evening. And then your beautiful gallery pieces that were all about peace. What is peace?
Well, and to me, that theatrical production is rooted in the notion of seeing the humanity in everybody, even and in particular in your adversary. And really, that's at the core of the work that we do with A Piece of My Mind, is recognizing that common humanity that we all share.
How has that evolved?
Back when I came here with that exhibit, that was the first exhibit we had produced, and I still didn't know what this art was supposed to be, what this storytelling and art, how it could be used to connect people. And all of those stories that we brought here were rooted in Minnesota, which is where the project began. But now we've sort of taken it nationally. In fact, my wife Karen and I just got done with 2.5 years on the road, driving 93,000 miles across the United States, trying to gather stories of hope, healing, and transformation, sort of in a divided world to rediscover what connects us.
And that was your first exhibit, was here?
It was the first produced version of the exhibit. It had been shown other places.
Gotcha.
But it was that first version that was here, and it was still young and trying to figure out how it could work in the world. And it was actually one of the seeds that you all helped plant of how to engage in creative in different ways. You know, how to bring this work to different audiences and help them talk about conflict resolution and civic responsibility and social change and all of the ways that we can hopefully find to live better together.
Yeah, I'm curious, is your work, are these conversations giving you hope?
Depends on the day you ask me. I mean, like anybody else, when I turn on the news, it's really easy to get discouraged. It's really tempting to feel like the problems are bigger than the solutions that we bring to the table, but really it is this act of sitting in relationship and in community with people who oftentimes really differ vastly from what my experience is in the world, and having those conversations really does give me hope, and understanding that there are people who continue to show up and continue to stay at the table. But what I hope people will take away is this encouragement to listen deeply, to challenge their own expectations, and to commit to staying at the table, to stay engaged. Don't silo yourself. Don't other the other person, but stay engaged across a wide range of experiences. And to me, that's how we understand the world in a better way, and figure out the complexities and nuance of where our solutions can be.
There is a lot in common between your work and the work of Everwood.
I know it. I can feel it.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons I love being here.
Darren, your favorite place to create music this week, where was it?
Man, it kind of surprised me because you have all these beautiful spaces set up. So the piano here in the barn was something I saw on your website when I was first checking this place out, and I pictured myself spending every day there, and I didn't. There was spots inside. I walked around with the guitar, but honestly, some of the best stuff I wrote, I ended up walking to the garden and sitting in what we were calling the pigeon poop house. But the structure down there was this chair just sitting in and it looks broken.
Yeah.
I had to kind of put half my weight on it to see if it was going to hold me. There's a big crack through the middle, but I sat on that chair and wrote a bunch of stuff, and it wasn't the spot I thought was going to inspire me.
Fascinating.
But that's kind of what I love about creating, is you never know when that moment's going to happen. At least that's how it is for myself.
I'm fairly certain no one has created out of the calving barn before.
No, I think you're right.
Otherwise known as what'd you call it? The pigeon poop house?
Yeah, I think that's what it was said at one point.
Yours maybe flows a little bit better. I don't know.
And you are sitting on a chair that was given to us by a theater company that is breaking my heart that we have, because we cannot fix that chair. That's fascinating.
The chair I was speaking of, that's down here. Yeah,
yes. I love that you made music on it. I'm like, I wouldn't let anybody sit on that chair.
Sorry, I found the hidden chair.
Yeah, it's got a beautiful little plaque on the back.
It's really sweet.
The theater company that
gave
it
cool.
to us.
I didn't notice that.
And then you can etch below it, and Darren sat here.
And Darren sat here. I think you just discovered the name of your next album, The Pigeon Poop House.
Oh. Well, so
live from the calving barn. How about that?
Live from the calving
nice.
barn, that might be.
John and I were having some great conversations all week, and some of the most poignant stuff was when we were parting ways to go do our work. And I would write some of the things down he said, which turned into some little song ideas. And
which I love.
Yeah, so maybe at some point there'll be a pigeon poop song.
I would like that.
Yeah.
There was one moment where I walked out of the house, and when I came back, you said, some of the best stuff that I'm writing down is just as you're exiting the house. And I said, the other way you can interpret that is you just said, every time you leave, I get inspired. Yes. And I don't know how I feel about that, but...
That's awesome.
You know, whatever works.
Whatever makes that creative process.
That's right.
I really enjoyed sharing the space with John, and I wasn't sure how that was going to go down, and I was open to the idea, and but it was really nice to have someone to check in with. I think it kept me on task, and I was just thinking when you asked, the first question you asked John was about if he goes by photographer first, and he was showing me these beautiful photos he took on his phone, and I'm like, aren't you a photographer? Why is this on your iPhone? And he mentioned that he left his camera stuff at home to focus on his book, and that was a learning lesson for me too, because I feel like I spread my work far and wide, and to kind of have focus on something was a good lesson from you this week.
It was really a treat to sit at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day, and a couple of check-ins to sort of hear about Darren's process, and to watch you sort of noodle through a song, and to hear something that you were given birth to. And it was writing and music and photography, these are all different sort of art forms, but there are some familiar processes, and so it's always a treat to watch somebody else go through that process.
I'm going to call you on your drive home to have one last check-in, I think.
Yeah, for
You're
sure.
not going to be here tonight.
I know. I hope you're going to be
That's
okay.
true.
I think it's been a really great give and take this week, and I feel like we were both super productive in ways that I didn't expect. Like when I walked in, I had this weird pressure inside, like, oh my gosh, you got to do this and finish that and accomplish this. And the first night I just sat, this tends to happen with me. Yeah. I just sat and read through the guest book. And the people, in fact, this is what I wrote in my thing in the guest book. You could feel the people who had come before and walked through this space and sort of prepared the soil and planted the seeds. And I felt like we really got to reap the bounty of that harvest. And it's an amazing week.
And I put on Courtney Hartman's record I saw in your stash, which is how I first heard about this place, because she was here, and her music is near and dear to me, and it was pretty special to start the week with her singing in the front room. Yeah. But you can definitely feel the energy around here.
Yeah. Bill and I have talked a lot about that, the participant that is Everwood. The birds sing with opera singers, and rainstorms happen in the middle of plays, and it is soaking and reciprocal an energy from us and then back to us. And I think especially since the artist retreat started, we were concerned about the solo nature of it, because most places, even if you're working by yourself, everybody's gathering at a long table at the end of the evening and sharing what's going on, and this is not that. And so would people feel isolated? Would they miss a sense of community, a sense of belonging? Can you energetically hold the muse in the walls from everybody who's come and who's coming, and let that support each other? And what I'm hearing you say is that you're experiencing some of that. So that's, apparently, that is our biggest hope.
Apparently you can.
Apparently
you do.
Can. Huh.
Yeah.
For those that aren't familiar with your music, Darren, how would you describe it?
That's tricky. I'm mostly known as a drummer, and I play with drums in a lot of bands. And part of just moving to Wisconsin, I'm really trying to transition into presenting my own songs more. I put out my first record in 2010, and my daughter was born the next year. So I transitioned into being a dad, and then I put out another thing 8 years later in 2018, and it got derailed a little bit, and so I'm sitting on a wealth of material. I brought all these notebooks and voice memos to listen through this week and to start collecting all these thoughts that I've had through the last 5 years. This is getting long-winded, but I'm writing a whole bunch of new stuff, and I'm really excited to present my music in a way that I think I deserve some recognition, or declaring who I might be as a musician. I don't know how to answer your question.
You just did.
And I'm still trying to figure that out, but I'm trying to find the courage to put myself out there more. I've been a supporting role in a lot of different projects and bands for years, and I think I do great in that collaborative spot. But I'm trying to find me. I somehow found myself in my mid-40s and was like, I keep putting this off. At what point do I turn and open up these books and figure it out? So this week was a really good moment in time for me to kind of come to terms with that and pivot on that notion. So hopefully some really great material to share with you soon that started at the Pigeon Poop House, of all places.
Are we going to change that now, or are we going to stick?
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about
There's
that.
kind of a good metaphor in that, though, I think.
I mean, arguably,
Out of the piles of poo, something beautiful, or
Exactly.
something
It's
like that.
fertilizer is what it is.
That's right.
Yeah.
Nurturing.
That's the cycle of life. Did I hear that you went to a concert?
Yeah. When we were when we got the announcement of what the pairings were and what the timing was, I looked at Darren's. Maybe you on your website you listed upcoming events. Maybe
Yeah, I think that's maybe what it was.
Yeah, and I'm like, man, is there anything that's going to be close to us? And so your neighbor Wade across the street, who's a longtime friend and fan of live music, I said, Wade, you want to come and hear this band with me? And so you were playing drums with Dan Rodriguez.
Dana Rodriguez, yeah.
At the Cedar Cultural Center in Minneapolis. And we went and had traded a couple of messages beforehand, but then basically said, hey, see you at the show. And got to meet up afterwards and visit for a little bit, just so we had some place to start when we all showed up here at Everwood. It was great.
Love it.
Do you have any advice for up and coming artists who might be retreating or maybe rooming with someone that they don't know
We're thinking about
or
applying.
wanting to apply? Right.
I wrote down for this week that I wanted to not hold myself to too many expectations, because I knew I'd let myself down. I usually do. And so, but I think that's really good advice. I thought of that before I got here, and I still stick with that, to just go with the flow. Because I found, like I said, writing a song in a spot I didn't think it would materialize, just letting it flow and go with the tangents, and don't hold yourself to too much. I wish it was going longer, but I also feel really good closure about having been here for a full week. I've never had this much time to myself in my craft. So you should apply. If you're listening to this, you should definitely give this a shot. It's worth the week of discovering yourself.
I hear in that, be gentle with yourself.
Yeah, that's a better way to say that. Thank you.
Whereas John, I think you shared what you wrote on your intention.
Yeah. So I came at it from the opposite end of Darren, and my intention slip said, quote, finish the damn book. So that's not necessarily being particularly gentle with myself, but we had finished these 2.5 years on the road, and I can see this limited window in my life to get this thing out of my head so that I can go on to the next thing. And so I was really battling with that duality of feeling internal pressure and just allowing things to unfold naturally. And it worked out okay. I am not advocating for putting that sort of pressure on yourself, but I am advocating for believing you can do big things. And just being willing to take that first step toward it, not feeling like you have to have every step of the path figured out, but just having the courage to move forward on the path with the belief that when you move a couple of steps, those next steps will become visible to you. And just trust that process. And even if you are scared, to just do it anyway.
I think the fear you find on the first step, you're going to find a new fear on the third step. You know
Oh,
what I
for
mean?
sure.
You have to learn how to face that. I mean, I'm learning that myself, but from what you said, I think that it's going to be constant.
Yep. Yeah. The fear changes and evolves, but you also overcome and accomplish things that you might shy away from otherwise. That's how you build the toolkit that you stick in your back pocket, and then when you need it, you can pull them out.
Well, you also put on another piece of armor after each step as well, right? To conquer the next fear.
Yeah,
Another
right.
piece of armor goes onto your body and
A little
makes
bit of
you stronger.
confidence that you can
yeah.
make it through that.
The next one,
Absolutely.
I think we should launch into
Our final.
Is this the lightning round?
It is.
It is.
We have 20 questions.
Oh, good.
And here we go. No. We actually have a question that we end all of our podcast with. And it is this. How have you experienced beauty today?
We're both pointing at each
And
other.
it's okay if it involves poop.
No, it's not okay. Today, not this week.
Go for this week. Make it your own
Broaden the
question.
lens.
Make it your own question.
Changing the rules.
All good. Artist first, Chris Evan. Artist first.
I think for me, and I'll relate it back to that internal pressure of finishing the damn book. I have a propensity to just drive on toward a goal when there's something I have to get done, and to do it sort of ruthlessly, and that comes with some personal violence and damage in the process sometimes. And I found in this space the ability to step away from that, and the ability to not set an alarm, not drive an agenda, to enter the day for what the day had to present, create when I felt like I could create, and step away and look at the lightning flies and wander the trails when I needed something else. And there was a human rhythm in that was remarkably beautiful.
Yeah, I tuned out of social media for a week, aside from having to post a few things. We were joking about that, but not looking at the phone and just using the environment here to inspire me was amazing. Walking the singing path today, which if you stay here, I recommend you do, was it was a beautiful closure for this week. I thank you for that.
Well, thank you both for joining us for the week, for joining us for this conversation. This actually was a great way to kick off our first podcast of the season.
Yeah, I totally agree. We're deeply invested in both of you and your work, and want to know how it meets the world, and how we can support you too. So
Stay in touch.
stay in touch, please.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for this week, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Conversations from the Barn at Everwood Farmstead. Our theme music is provided by John Mark Nelson. Wishing you all good health.